Okay, all right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to my talk. I'm so excited to be speaking to you all today. My name is Pooja. I just joined Postman not too long ago. Oops, one second. Yeah, so my name is Pooja. I just joined Postman not too long ago at one of the most exciting times of our company. Postman is used by 20 million people worldwide. And it's, really exciting and kind of a full circle journey for me, starting off as an automation test engineer, using Postman as a developer, to now being a developer advocate here at Postman and sharing with you all some of the most interesting and exciting features that I think maybe you guys should all know if you are Postman users and Postman fans. So, I feel like Postman is one of those tools that, people have heard of. It's used by teams every day to do a lot of different things. Its ecosystem is growing like crazy. So 20 million users worldwide. What does that kind of look like? It's almost like 234 countries are where some of our users come from. And then we see like 855 million API requests yearly, and that's just growing. This was like a 2021 report. I'm not sure what the recent stats are, but it's a continuous growth in the API world and the API market. So this really shows that we're moving towards an API-first world. We're at an API conference here today, but it looks like a lot of companies are now, dependent on APIs as products and their main product that they're selling, as well as there's so many companies that are created around maintaining and working with APIs, and Postman is one of them as well. And it aims to be the full API lifecycle platform. So I wanted to kind of talk to you all a little bit about Postman and just share with you some features that you might have not heard before. But before I get started, I just want to get a show of hands. Are there any Postman fans in the room? Can you just raise your hand? Okay, great. Those are my Postmanauts right there. But aside from them, I wanted to get some insight for some of the people. Maybe you've used Postman. Can we just get a shout out of like, what have you used Postman for? Like, what do you mainly use? Or yeah, can I?
Exploring and testing your requests.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
We're spending a lot of time designing API these days, and a lot of time spent in Postman.
Okay, yeah. So anyone else? Does anyone else have any Postman stories, usage? Okay, great. Yeah. So, I mean, Postman is much more, I'm sure some of you are already using some interesting features of Postman, but it's much more than just sending requests. I feel like that was like the start of Postman, let's use something that's better than curl, send our requests, get like some easy response right away, and see something that's like easy to, at least consume as a developer, and that user experience is great. But it's so much more, and it's all of these things. It's testing proxies, documentation, workspaces. It's such a deep and vast tool, and powerful in so many ways. And this talk is really just to aim to like show you some of the capabilities of it. It is not even kind of scratching the surface, but I hope that by the end of this talk, you walk away with some understanding of maybe some features that you might have not used before that maybe you can use as you go on your API exploration journey. So I wanted to first dive in. This is just 10 things everyone should know about Postman. I'm going to be sharing quite a lot today, maybe more than maybe you can digest, but feel free to follow me on Twitter as well after this, and I'll be sharing all the resources, blogs, links, all of that stuff too. So let me dive right in and kind of get started before showing you what the Postman feature is like. I wanted to kind of just show you what your workspace would look like when you first get started with Postman. So, you can see that you're able to, oops, oh man. Oh no, why is it not working? Hold on. All right, there we go. So when you first log into Postman, you see like some announcements. So clearly API Days is happening, but you'll also see like some of your workspaces, some of the things that you've worked on. So if you work in a team profile, you'll be able to see like your team profile, all the collections and things that your team is creating as well. So for those of you who have worked with teams, you can see that you can see your popular collections, you can fork your collections, watch your collections. And so forking our collections is very similar to, I guess in the GitHub world, cloning a repository almost. And it's almost like you're taking that collection, you're putting that in your own public or private workspace to mess around with and play around with. So today we're going to be diving deeper into this specific workspace. So it's called the 10 Postman Features workspace. This is a workspace that I would recommend, if you're interested and you are into this talk and you want to learn a little bit further, go ahead and fork this workspace into your own workspace as well, your own team workspace or private workspace. So the way to do that is if you just search for 10 Postman features everyone knows, you can search directly in the Postman tab or look at the Postman DevRel profile, or just search directly right here, 10 features everyone should know. You'll see that this is a public workspace that anyone can Google and download and fork. So to fork this collection, all you'll have to do is just click on this and create a fork. So you can specify where you want to fork it. So for example, we created a team workspace for Postman API Days. And I'll just go ahead and write where I would like to fork this. And when you fork this collection, you'll see that you're able to watch what the original public collection looks like, but you're able to kind of get your collection into your own workspace as well. So I've actually forked this collection myself. So I have my own team profile where I can add my colleagues, my friends, or people that I'm working with to work in that space. So this way we are all able to work with one, able to manipulate and work with this particular workspace. So that's kind of like the basics of forking. But I wanted to dive deep into these 10 features that I think are the most interesting. So the first feature that I wanted to talk to you all about is the Postman API feature. So if you didn't know, Postman has its own API where you can actually get all of your Postman-related data. You can use all of that data and you can programmatically work with that data that's stored in your Postman account. So what does this data look like? So the data that you are able to work with here are like your collections. So for example, this is your entire collection. Each collection that you have available has its own specific collection ID. So for example, if you look at your collection, you can see in this info right here, you can see your own collection ID. So when I look at my collection and I look at some requests that are in here, like for example, in this workspace, I can get all of the data that's associated to this collection. When I send this request, I can see that all of my data comes back up. And then if I want to get data for like maybe a single collection, I can also get that data as well. So here I have this variable and it's an unresolved variable. So I can set this variable in Postman. I'm going to set this variable as a new variable, and I'm going to actually take my collection ID right here, and I'm going to copy that over and just set this as a new variable. And I'm going to give it a scope of global so that I can use it throughout my workspace. And I can see that request being sent, and I can basically get the data back from that specific collection ID. And there's a lot of information that I can get. If I look at this response output, you can see lots of different things like when it was created at, where it was created at, lots of different information. And you might be asking yourself, okay, well, why is this important? Why would I want to get some, data from my own collection? Well, one of the big reasons you want to use the Postman API is for automation. So for example, here I wanted to show you guys our CLI. So we work with Newman. So Newman is our CLI tool. And Newman is really great because it allows you to run your entire Postman collection through scripting. So let's say if you have like some sort of Jenkins pipeline and you need to write a script or something like that, or if you wanted to do some sort of automation, say your tests are all in your collection, right? You want to run this programmatically. What you would want to do is you could use Newman, and you can actually run your Newman, your collection using your collection ID and using the Postman API. And so, for example, here we're using the Postman API, and we're using the collection ID and your API key, which you'll have when you create your thing, create your workspace. And your profile. You can get your own API key, and you can run that collection. So let me just show you a little bit of what that kind of looks like in practice. So I actually have one scenario of a collection running. So this is running right now programmatically. So basically, this is every single API that I have kind of in that entire workspace. I have them running programmatically using Newman. So you can see that you get a lot of really interesting data, especially if you're interested in testing. Like you can get response data, you can write tests very, very intuitively, and you get some really great output as well. So like, for example, you can see your test iteration, which ones failed, which ones executed. You can see your response details, assertions. So this is a pretty powerful tool. And so this is a really great use case for the Postman API and why you would want to use it in the first place. And so definitely check out that Postman API. And if you're interested in Newman, we also have lots and lots of different ways to output your data. We have HTML outputs. You can output your data in multiple ways. I know if there are some testing folks, this is stuff that you might care about, and you're interested in this as well. So that's all about the Postman API. So definitely take a look. Lots of use cases. You can get data on collection workspaces, and you can even trigger your entire collection using a webhook as well, if that's something you're interested as well. So the next feature I wanted to talk about is the Postman Echo feature. And like the name says, Postman Echo basically echoes data back to you. So this is great for anybody who's into testing that doesn't want to analyze backend logs of your server. So why not just like fake your data, echo it back, do some testing, validate your results, have some sort of sanity stuff in place. So Postman Echo is, as the name says right here, you can basically get back data. Here I'm getting back the parameters that I've just sent in place. So pretty simple stuff. Let's say you wanted to, before you start creating an API, you want to mock out like your results of an API. So for example, here I'm posting some random data that I have, some random latitudes, some random longitudes for some, let's say I'm making some sort of like API with, user data and their location. I can echo that data back. I can post it back, write some tests, but I can even take it a step further. And these are some other features that I'll probably show you a little bit as we go on, but I can dynamically send that data into my request body using some scripts and some inbuilt libraries. And I can take it a step further, echo that data. It's all random each time. And I can also visualize it. So this is a cool feature that I'll dive a little bit deeper, but just wanted to give you a sneak peek, which leads to the next feature that I'm actually obsessed with. I started at Postman, And the first thing I got super intrigued by was visualization. So think about being able to take your API and then take that data and make analytics and visualize that data real time as you're working with it. So basic example of this, we're going to be using Postman Echo here again. I have some data in here. I like these messages. I'm going to visualize a list that, that prints out these messages in like a pretty way. So here I can echo that data back, and then I can use, so if you look at my test tab, what I'm basically doing is I'm taking like each of the data, response data, and taking that message, and I'm just putting that into a simple HTML list. And this is a simple use case, but this feature right here, Pmvisualizer Set, this is basically whatever you set in this template right here. So for example, this is the template you set. This is the template that I've created. It outputs that response into your visualizer field right there. So you can visualize that data, and this is simple, but you can do some pretty cool things with it. Like for example, you can create charts with it. If anyone likes beer, this is one of my favorite visualizations that I've created. So let me see. So this is one of the projects that I started working with. I found this API. I wanted to get beer, where are all the breweries in the United States. I was able to take that API and see the list of all the breweries by state. And actually, let me go by state. Let me show you here. And I think I'm able to visualize that data and show you like which states have like all the breweries like right here. So for example, like Texas has these breweries. So yeah, so this is an interesting way to do visualization. So this is a lot more complex than just writing, lists and things like that. You can write your entire HTML, CSS in here. And I worked with like the D3 library to do some of these interesting visualizations. So this goes a lot deeper than just sending API requests and working with things like that. So I just wanted to show you one more visualization. This is a earthquake API, and it's taking longitude and latitude for all the earthquakes that have happened over a period of time, and you're able to visualize them periodically. So this is a really cool feature, and one feature that can get really creative if you guys are interested in this level of analytics and working with APIs as well. So we have that. So the next thing I wanted to talk to you all about is the inbuilt libraries. So a lot of times when we're working with code and we're working with data, we need to use external libraries. And one of the best ways to use external libraries, one external library that's available that's really great is this random fake data library. This is already inbuilt. Postman already has a lot of these inbuilt libraries as well. So as you're testing, as you're building some of this data, you can use some of these libraries that are already inbuilt. Some of the additional libraries that are available, for example, we have all of these libraries that are inbuilt and available as well, like Lodash, and you're able to basically use these external libraries by just requiring them in your test script. So for example, like chai crypto.js. So in this scenario, I actually have a couple of libraries that I've imported. So for example, I've imported this Lodash library, this crypto.js library. So if I just show you kind of what that looks like. What was that? Oh, I just uncommented everything out. So I just wanted to show you. I have imported the libraries using the require method, and then now I can use those libraries from my response. So the pm.response.json, so that's taking the data back from your API. And then here, I'm also doing console logs. So one other thing that I wanted to show is like Postman, if you haven't worked with Postman, it also has a console. So any API that you've sent, those all get printed out in the console as well. So just to show you how to use some of these libraries in your tests, this is just console logging out some of the data that is coming back, and then it's using the library to do some manipulation and get some data back. So for example, this moment.js library is giving you the formatted date from this API. So I can show you that from this API, it's getting the date back and it's formatting it as today's date, July 28th. And you can also put Lodash's library, I believe, puts all your data into an array. So this is powerful if you are a scripter. If you're creating like really important scripts, you're writing your tests, this is powerful as a developer. You can work with Postman in more than just a sending requests, getting data back sort of way. You can actually take this data and get some better output, write better tests. I think that's the key here when it comes to working with some of these external libraries and doing that kind of work. So yeah, so I have that going on. So that's number 4, built-in libraries, and we have tons and tons of documentation on how to use some of these libraries as well, and a lot of blog posts that are available in our Postman blogs as well. But you might be asking yourself, all right, well, I'm doing all my coding and all my stuff in Postman. What if I want to export this stuff out? So let's say you're working in the Postman editor, but you also want to export this out. So let me just show you that that's an interesting feature as well. So right here on the side, you can actually export out all of your code snippets and all of your scripts into either curl commands, commands in Node.js, JavaScript, we have PHP. So lots of ways to basically take your code snippet and export that out and run your requests in other ways that are beyond just the Postman editor as well. So that's something to keep an eye out for as you are doing that level of development. So the next feature that I wanted to go into, so we're halfway there, workflow controls. So this is all about being able to control when and how order of tests. So let's say something has to happen first, you get all the data from that test first, and then after that happens, then you go to the next request. So in a very simple way, I have these 4 requests. So this is my first request I'm going to run. It's a Postman Echo. Then I run my second test, but then I can use this feature called set next request that you see right here. And it's actually going to skip my 3rd test, and it's going to run my 4th test directly. So you might be thinking, okay, well, do I have to click and run these tests by myself like each and every time? Well, this is a really great feature from Postman that you can actually create iterations of your test by running your entire folder. So this is the Postman runner. So here you can see you can create iterations. You can run your test one time. If you're doing some load testing, I feel like some people out there might want to like overload the system, run their test like hundreds of times or something like that, or integration testing, or you might want to save your responses and like work with different variables. This is a really, really powerful tool for that. And let's say you have a CSV file. You want to run your test against an entire CSV suite of like all of the names of maybe your customers, and you want to see what they're buying or something like that. I don't know. You could run your entire test using the runner as well. So in this scenario, if I run this, you can see that I was able to run the first test, the second test, and then the fourth test because I added that set next request script. So this lets you kind of do that controlling situation. So I actually have a better example of this, and this is, let's see. Okay, so this is a collection that I've created. So I've created this collection where I'm working with the Twitter API. I'm getting all of my colleagues. I'm going to get their names from Twitter, and I'm going to get their longitudes and latitudes from Twitter, from the location they've set on Twitter. And then I'm also going to get the weather in their location. So I'm from Chicago, so I wanted to. This is my first collection project. I just joined Postman, and I realized like everyone lives and works all over the world. So how do I bring everyone together and visualize something interesting? So I decided to take Twitter API and position stack API and weather API and try to position everyone on a map. But here I've used set next request as a feature to make sure that I can get everybody's latitude and longitude and set everybody's location as a variable before I get everybody's weather data. So what that looks like when I show you my runner, you can see that I have an index for how many users I've used. I've put in my username list. So I'm getting everybody's longitude, latitude. So here you can see that I have 5 usernames from Twitter, and I wanted to get all of their data. And then after I got their data, I can get all of their weather data, and then I'm able to visualize where they all live on the map and get all their weather data as well. So that was a fun little project. So feel free to fork that project as well if that's something you're interested in as well. So that's workflow controls. Any questions? I feel like I'm going really fast. Yeah? Are you good? Okay, cool. So the next feature that I wanted to talk a lot about is collaboration. So Postman allows you to do a lot of that collaboration, especially if you're in a team setting. One interesting thing that you can do is you can write comments on each of your, if you're working with a team members, you can write comments on the requests. So that way you can have this like level of dialogue as you're working with team members across your entire request series. But deeper than the dialogue, the one interesting feature that I think is really interesting, you can also actually do pull requests and create pull requests and merge changes and collaborate with your colleagues similarly as you would with like GitHub repos as well. So like, for example, here, this is a forked collection from the parent collection that was that global collection that everyone on the internet can see. But I'm forking that down into my own personal team repository. So if there are any changes that are happening in that main collection, I can also do see all the changes that have happened in that main collection, and I can also do pull my changes. But if I make any updates to my personal workspace, I can also submit pull requests. So this is available throughout the free version as well. So this feature is available for anyone that's pulling. But the caveat here, I think, is that you would need to make sure if you're doing any pull requests back to your original collection, your collection has to be also a public collection similarly as well. So that's I guess that's the difference when it comes to enterprise, is like that level of security of working within teams, being able to merge pull requests in that team setting versus like public setting, etc. So that's a great question. So this is how we do collaborations. Very similarly, submit pull requests, you're able to merge changes as well. Finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about collection level information. So being able to, you might notice that in each request, you have a pre-request tab. You can write some tests that happen before you even send your requests. Then you have a test tab where you can write something after you send your requests. But you can also actually write some tests in your entire folder that gets executed before you even run through your entire collection. So basically the idea here is that there's testing at each and every stage. So there's an order of testing. So if you want, depending on how you would like to test, you can make sure that your tests run globally across your folder, or you can test individually. So this is for, this just provides a lot more flexibility for people depending on how they want to test. And like in this scenario, I wanted to make sure that I'm getting a status code 200 for all of my tests in this folder, but I'm also making sure that the output is includes that data. So in this scenario, if I run this folder, I will see passed and failed tests because I'm asserting some random data as well. So this is just something to keep in mind. I think with Postman, a lot of times previous users of Postman have just thought of testing at a request feature level, but this goes beyond requests. You can do folder level tests, workspace level tests. You can do entire integration test suites to your entire request. So the idea here is that the possibilities are kind of endless when it comes to testing. So, okay, this one's really fun because we actually used this one this weekend. So monitors for regression. So were you guys able to go to the README booth by any chance today? The README booth. If you haven't gone, I would recommend you go to the README booth. But if you haven't, I will show you on Twitter what it's like. So this is the README booth, and they have this really cool this board. So they have an API. If you hit the API, you can print whatever text you want to print, right? So my colleague Kevin here, super smart guy, decided to create a monitor. So he decided to create a monitor that every 5 minutes, I'm going to hit this API and I'm going to send some requests. And clearly, well, we got blocked. So too many requests. How about you come say hi in person? So, so this is an interesting feature. Like this is a feature in action. We were able to kind of do this today or yesterday. And actually, Kevin got blocked pretty bad. He's actually fully blocked from their code repo. But this is a way to use Postman in a dynamic way. So I have an example where I've created this, basically this collection here that it tells me, like if I had an IoT device, it tells me the moisture level in my plant. And I can create this monitor that like goes on for months and just see when my plants need to be watered, and when it does, hit that API. So this is a very small use case, or you could do something like Kevin did and bother other people. But the idea of monitors is that this is a way to automate some stuff and let your APIs run in an interesting and efficient way without the need of constantly pressing a button or doing whatever. So it's a really interesting monitor. It's an interesting feature when it comes to automation as well. So I hope you guys got a kick out of that one. So but definitely check out README. They have a cool booth, and yeah. So check out their APIs as well. So let's see. Okay, so I think today I talked a lot about REST APIs, but we also have support for GraphQL APIs. So for those of you who work with GraphQL APIs and GraphQL queries, Postman also has a really great support for GraphQL APIs as well. So instead of writing or creating REST APIs, you can work with some Graph. So this is an example here where I have a GraphQL API that is sending back some data based on some Spotify related albums. So this is something to look at. I feel like if you work, I don't work heavily with GraphQL, but for those developers that do, this is something to kind of, I think this is the powerful feature just to let you know that Postman supports all different types of queries. And on top of queries, we also support many different types of requests. So here you can also send a WebSocket request, gRPC requests. So in this scenario, I'm going to create this WebSocket request here. So I'll just use Postman Echo as well, just to show you how that kind of works. So here, if I were to create a Postman Echo WebSocket request and just send in that data, I would actually need to create a new collection for this. So let me just create a collection, WebSocket test, and then I have that request saved to that collection here, and I can send some data as well, and I'm able to connect and send that data using WebSockets right there as well. So this is for developers that are interested in that feature. And so not only can you work with GraphQL queries, you can work with REST queries, you can work with WebSockets, webhooks, and gRPC. So it kind of supports the gamut when it comes to working with different types of data and APIs. And we're almost done. Okay, so the last feature is documentation. So documentation is so important. Everyone knows, if a developer creates an API and nobody knows how to use it, did a developer even create the API? I don't know. So it's funny, but essentially documentation is so important when it comes to spreading that news and spreading how to use your API and how to work with it. So one really great feature here is we support Markdown when it comes to documentation. So that's really important as well. So for those developers that are writing all their docs in Markdown, they can edit their documentation throughout. So this is great because I feel like if you go through this entire collection, the documentation is actually going to guide you on how to kind of use this. And you can get overviews, authentication. And one feature I wanted to show you is that if you were to add any parameters into your API, so let's say test parameter is X, and I were to save that, I can see that query parameter documented directly into my docs as well. So this is really powerful, important feature. Goes beyond developing, goes beyond anything. So for those of you who are trying to create APIs that get publicly visible, one of the most important and useful features is documentation. So that's what I have. That's all I have. But I actually have one bonus feature for you. I know this is 10 features and you're probably tired of me talking, but I have one awesome feature for you, and that is our Postman Flows features. So Postman Flows is really awesome because it actually uses the concepts of low code, no code programming. So here I have a bunch of flows here. So for example, these are building blocks for the flows. So this, if I were to go to this API, I can hit this API and this gives me all of the, cat facts that are out there. But I can also send this request using using flows. So if I were to basically create a terminal building block here and connect this data here, I can basically send this request using this flows, and I should be able to see this data back into my terminal that is available here. So I don't know if I'm having some load issues, but essentially I should be able to see that data. But I have one example that actually uses loops. So we can build this flow together, actually. So here I have this one API. It's a cocktail API. So if I send this API, and I hope it sends this request, okay, great. So I can see all my data here is basically cocktails with that ingredient that includes gin. So I like gin. So I decided to get a list of cocktails that are here. So let's say I wanted to programmatically create a flow that basically outputs each and every in this API, each and every drink by their name. So the way I would go about doing that is I can use this for each method. So if I look at for each, I'll do that. And then if I click on, oops. So I will send this, connect these two. So this is giving you the response output. And if I were to connect these two, oops. All right, so if I go into my for, and then I look at my body and I do drinks, okay? And then, so it's gonna say for each drink, I will get I'm gonna create some data. So I'm gonna create this data. And let's move these aside so I have some room. Okay, I'm gonna connect this to this one. So if I get this data, let's look at what data I want to get. So for each, sometimes this works. Oops. Hold on, I want to edit this for a second. Yeah, live demos, you guys. Oops. Send that data in here. And I wanted to show data. Okay. It should show data as string, but for some reason, I'm not able to get that right now. But if I were to just look at that as in the terminal, I can connect that here. And if I were to start that data, you should be able to see, oh wait, there's an issue right here. There's token. Yeah, I had this working. It was, oops. Okay, let's try that again for data drinks. Okay, and maybe that will, let me just make sure I can do this again, create data, and send that data here, and then add that data. Nope, not data 2. All right. For some reason, I'm not able to get parsed into that data right now, but no, it should be able to get the data body. So if I were to start that, oh, there we go. That's why. Okay. Oops. Yeah, okay. So I can see that I can get all the data that I'm getting back and looping through all of that data as well. So that's one way to programmatically see your data being passed from one API into another, and you can programmatically create some lists. So yeah, I feel like that's one example. There's a lot of ways to do it. Like for example, here I have 2 APIs. I want to create a list. Programmatically be able to send that data into a list together. So this is a way to kind of programmatically show how you can, not only, you don't need to basically write your logic through your tests, you can use flows to create some of this logic as well. So there's that. So yeah, I feel like we went through a lot today. We went to inbuilt libraries, commenting, collaborating, monitoring, GraphQL, documentation, flows. This was a pretty expansive and extensive deep dive. So there's lots and lots of new features as well that have already recently come out in Postman, and we're actually releasing V10 that's coming out a little bit later this year. But yeah, some of our features, if you're interested in learning, you can actually see those features in our blog posts, and you can follow our space camps, which are basically webinars that we do each month, and we kind of dive deeper into some of these features and how to kind of go about them. So, and definitely check our release notes. We have UI changes that are happening all the time and new integration changes. Like recently, we have integration with GitLab and Jenkins and Travis CI. So as you're working with Postman, you'll be able to kind of get a deeper dive into that. So yeah, I hope you guys had a great, thought this was a great session. I have lots and lots of additional resources for you. So if you're interested in learning more, feel free to follow me on Twitter. And I'm happy to link some of my slides, some of the examples that I've gone through today, and just give you guys a better insight. And if you have any questions about Postman, you can always post on the Postman community forum. And we have lots of people there that are able to help you as you go into your Postman API testing, developing journey. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all being here. Have a good one.